Windy and cold is getting quite old. When you gonna let me get warmer? Wow. Hello everybody. Welcome back to G-Bear's Off-Grid Ways. A cold homestead in the desert. Been quite chilly lately. I've been sleeping in the mornings. I hope you all remembered to turn your clocks back last night. Those of you who do turn your clocks back, not everybody does that. The smart people don't. In this state, I think it was before the current governor came in, actually probably while the governor before him was in, the people of this state voted to end the daily savings time thing and get rid of it all. And they never abided by the vote of the people. And the excuse they gave was the California legislature has to determine whether it's going to have an environmental impact on the state or something like that. What a bunch of crap. Why don't you just say you're not going to listen to the voters, you're communists, you want to rule by an iron fist? That's all there is to it. Jeez. Can't believe it. So anyway, I did pick all my pears off the tree. They were just hanging on. I actually just reached for it. It went like that, and it just fell off in my hand. So there's one of the old stems right there. But yeah, they all came off real easy. So they're still a little on the hard side, but I've got them in the house, and they'll soften up in a few days, and I'll be eating some pears. I got 6 of them off the tree this year. Strange though, I didn't get any apples. Last year I got 4 apples, and this year nothing. And the apples have still got greenery going on them. This one I think the birds got to and got all the leaves off of it. The birds have been slipping in on me. Yeah, I'll have to call Alfred Hitchcock. Who remembers Alfred Hitchcock and the Birds? One of the most famous scary movies of all time. And people were afraid whenever they saw birds fly overhead after that movie. Anyway, look what I got. I got some old grower soil in mounds, every other mound. And then every other mound in between that, I've got horse manure. And yeah, it's all going to get rototilled into this garden, but I still got more to do. It was just too windy and chilly out here to work very long. I'm also going to give you some information on quince fruit. For those of you who don't know, those of you who do know, go ahead and add it down below in the comment section and give me a head start on it. I appreciate that. I got so many things to do. I got so many irons in the fire. Wow. So the other thing I did was my potatoes, I had a couple already sprouted, and I didn't pull them up or anything like that, but I did bury them. And the one thing that I learned over the years is they talk about when planting potatoes to plant them about 6 inches deep. Well, I found that the deeper you actually plant them, the more growth you'll get and the bigger potato you'll get. So if you go anywhere between 6 and 12 inches, you get a better production of potatoes. Bigger potatoes and more potatoes. Now I've got horse manure mixed in with this, and I've got perlite mixed in with this, so the soil's loose. I got straw mixed in with this. This is a decent soil, but this is still a container. And potatoes really would rather be growing in the ground. But I have to grow them in raised containers here because I got wire on the floor to keep tunneling critters from coming up from underneath. So anyway, I'll be also covering this with some straw because I want to keep the soil warm. I soaked the soil down really good after I tilled it up, and whatever potatoes I found, I just replanted them at the proper depth. And some of them were about a little smaller than a golf ball, I'd say. And some of them, I actually had 2 of them that were almost edible size, but they're still growing. And there was the only one potato on the plant, so I left it in there, even though I covered up the greenery part of the plant. If the potato still has life in it, it'll find its way up through the soil. But I need to keep the soil a little bit warmer for those deep freezes coming. So my onions and garlic are all looking good over there. And the garlic likes that cold spell through the winter, and then in the spring they really come up fast. I got a couple more onion bases, the root ends of the onions that I cut and ate for my meals. And I'll bring those out and get those planted here real quick too. Not today though. Today I'm calling it a day. Hey, it's a day. Yeah, I like calling it a day. Hey, that's a day. All right. Yeah, everything over here is looking good. My red potatoes, I didn't plant any this year. I think when I go to the store tomorrow, a supermarket tomorrow, because I get my food stamps, and there's talk all over the place, there's chit chatter all over the internet about it doesn't matter who wins the presidential election, you should be ready for civil unrest, one way or the other. It doesn't matter which one of them wins, there's going to be civil unrest. The amount of civil unrest, it will be determined by who it actually is that wins. But there will be civil unrest one way or the other. So, if you guys haven't already, get out tomorrow or get out tonight and get some good survival food to stock up on in case you have to stay home for a few weeks. And there's a lot of survival foods that are really good for stuff like that. Lentils are good. Peanut butter is good. Canned fish of any kind is good. Potatoes, they're pretty good, but they don't last a super long time. But if you treat them right and put them in a drawer by themselves down low in the dark, they'll sit there for a while without going bad on you. Of course, they've been manipulating our crops lately. Myself and my neighbor also recognize that potatoes from the supermarket, even if you do the normal to try to get them to sprout eyes so that you can plant them, they don't come out with maybe one eye if they get any at all. They just go into mush without growing any eyes. So I'm trying to experiment with some of those because I did get a few of them myself, and I put them in a bag with some onion, and just the tops of the onion, not the root stems. I plant those, but the tops of the onions, when I cut them off, I just threw those in the bag with the potatoes. Now, onions will usually make a potato sprout, and vice versa. The potato makes the onion sprout. So let's see if the gas from that onion will help get some eyes on the potatoes so I can get those in the ground here before the winter really sets in. So I got 1, 2, 3 more buckets of the old grower soil with the perlite in it, and then 2 buckets of horse manure in between the two. And then I'll rake that out evenly across this whole area, and I'll let it cool for a week. Same thing out there. I'll rake it all out and level it, and then I'll let it cool for a week. And then I'll come out with my rototiller, my electric rototiller, and I'll park my van like right there, and I'll run an extension cord from the van in here so I can run the rototiller. Yes, that's right. I have solar in my van with 120 volts AC. Those of you who have been watching my channel know that. So I also need to get in here, and probably tomorrow, after I come back from the supermarket, I'm going to rake up all these leaves, pick up all the trash that's blown around in here from the wind, and pack the leaves around the citrus trees like I did there, but deeper. And I want them about 4 inches deep on each one. And I should have enough leaves in here, just enough to do that with. And then I'll put a little bit of that horse manure on top of it to weight it down so it doesn't blow around on the windy days. And just let it sit like that through the winter. And by springtime, that horse manure will be cool enough to actually mix in the soil with the plants. But these trees all actually need to be pulled out of these buckets and planted in a permanent ground, because they're at that point where they're probably root bound. And I see roots growing out of the trunk of the tree and going into the soil. That normally means that they're root bound in the buckets. And like also here, you see a root coming up out of the ground, and it's already sprouted its own little tree on it. That means the bucket is packed tight with roots. So these need to get out and get into regular ground soil. So what I wanted to do was that right about the height of that bar, I've got some of that cement board still outside, and I want to put a couple of pieces of cement board right along this side here, and then I can plant 2 of the citrus trees on this side, and then put another one over there, do the same thing, put the cement board on that side and a cement board on this side, and I can plant the other 2 citrus trees in there also. Now that's a quince tree air layer that I took off of my quince tree, and that's already got apple and pear grafts on it. So I want to get that one out of there, and that's got to get into the ground also. I was hoping to have that garden extension done where all that stuff would fit, but don't have the money for it, so gotta wait. Anyway, that's the story, and that's what I'm going to stick to. Probably another month and a half or so, and I got to get out here and prune the grapevines and get those all ready for next year's growth. The non-producing pear tree has got apple grafts on it that are really growing well. That's a strong rootstock tree. I like it. So I'm going to have to take an air layer off of that tree and get a second one going that I can just use as a rootstock for grafting. And I want to get a few more apple grafts on that for when springtime comes, and see if I can't get that one producing some apples real soon. It's got a good base on it. Nice strong base. Anyway, as I'm moving out of here to move to the next thing, I think I'll tell you guys a joke. You haven't heard one in a while, have you? Anyway, let's see if I can remember one here. I remember one, but it's a shorty, so I'll make 2 short ones instead. Anyway, somebody asked me what I knew about the English Channel. I says, not much. I don't have cable. Yeah, okay. You guys from Britain are getting a laugh out of that one, huh? Yeah. So since we're in the garden, I got one more for you. What did the alien say to the garden? Anybody? What did the alien say to the garden? He said, "Take me to your weeder." Weeder, W-E-E-D-E-R. I love it. All right, you could tell that to the kids. They won't get brain damage from those jokes. Of course, they'll probably give you a really big aw, right? All right, so anyway, the last thing is I got all the containers already closed up for the day. Last thing I wanted to get into was just a little addendum to the LiFePO4 batteries. Oh, look at that, I'm still at 95% today. Isn't that nice? I love having power. Power. Tim the Toolman used to say, and rewire it for more power. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention was, those of you who are thinking about switching over to LiFePO4s, okay, you're better off, if you're going to go 48 volts, you're better off getting a 48 volt battery instead of getting 412 volts. Okay, that's just makes common sense. If anybody wants to know why, want me to elaborate on that, I will. But just think about it a minute. You got 4 batteries at 100 amp hours. If one of them goes bad, you got 4 bad batteries. If you got one battery at 400 amp hours at 48 volts, then you only have one battery to worry about, right? So you're better off, if you're going with a higher voltage, to have one battery at the higher voltage instead of a bunch of lower voltage batteries. The other thing is, remember, you can't just use any old charge controller with LiFePO4. You want to get a charge controller that is compatible with LiFePO4 batteries. And when you're setting it up, you have to make sure that you set it for LiFePO4 batteries if it doesn't automatically detect. All right, so make sure you do that. I think I mentioned yesterday, if you go with Bluetooth batteries, you don't need the shunt and monitor. Because Bluetooth batteries will have all of the capabilities of the shunt and monitor already built into it. The thing about that is, you want to know whereabouts your Bluetooth module is inside of the battery cover. Because if you cover it with any type of a metal building or anything like that, you're going to block the signal and you won't be able to get a signal from it. Now, being in a van like this with a Bluetooth battery, I might have trouble getting a signal outside, but I do have glass windows around, so I still may be able to work that out. But those are just a few of the things, a few of the other tips I wanted to get those across to some people. Also, for if you're going to be running a 12 volt system and you're going to be running a bunch of batteries in parallel, instead of going with 100 amp hour batteries and trying to get 800 amp hours of power, go with 400 amp hour batteries and get 2 of them. So you only have 2 12 volts in parallel. Okay. That just makes more sense. You're going to save in the long run on copper wire and all of that stuff. And it's less batteries to worry about. One of them going bad in the center of the group and ruining the whole set. All right. And then it also gets more complicated with more batteries that you put in parallel. The more circuit breakers and emergency disconnects and things like that you're going to want to install. So try to keep it simple. Go for the larger amp hour battery in the same voltage of what you're looking for. Don't try to add up amp hours by adding a bunch of batteries in parallel when you can just buy one battery that already has all those amp hours and you don't have to buy all the extra wiring. Also, this is not a good model of wiring. You want your wiring to all be the same length if possible. Okay. Now, actually, in effect, this negative from this battery to that one and the positive from that battery to that one are exactly the same length. I made those up the same length. The battery going from the shunt to the inverter and from the positive battery pole to the inverter are both the same length and the same gauge wiring. And I made those up together. Okay. This little short one in between here doesn't count because it's just, if this one could connect directly to there, it would make a difference. But I try to keep all my wiring perfectly the same length and all of that, but you want them as short as possible. And in parallel, when you're going to be putting lots of batteries together in parallel, it's better to have bus bars. You want a long bus bar along the positive side of the batteries and a long bus bar along the negative side of the batteries, the negative pole side. And then you want all your conductors, but all your positives, all your negatives, all the same length, and keep them as short as possible. So if you can get those down to 4, 5, 6 inches, all down the positive side, 4, 5, or 6 inches all the way down the negative side, connected to bus bars, and then go off the bus bars, and I would go opposite sides from the bus bars, from the bus bar on the negative side to the inverter, bus bar on the positive side to the inverter. Same length wiring. And I would go with heavier wiring from the batteries to the inverter because you're going to be carrying more amps. All right? Just a few tips. Wanted to get that across to you. Thank you for joining me, everybody. You know what? I only gave you one short joke, didn't I? Okay, one more garden joke. I saw a baby jalapeno in the garden was shivering. I said, "Why are you shivering?" He says, "I'm a little chilly." Oh. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. G Bear signing off.